Hey everyone, welcome to our live session today. I am absolutely stoked to be joined by the Superhuman team. I've got Dave Howden here, the CEO and the co-founder of Superhuman. 20 years experience plus in tech, including some big name roles, BT and Orange UK, among others. I'll let Dave talk a little bit more about that. But now in Superhuman, reinventing VET, looking at next level productivity with a bit of use of AI and how we can be going about making our lives a little bit easier. And we're also joined by Neha, who is a Superhuman specialist that is leading up the AI Academy. So we're going to be talking about that in the second half as well. It's great to see so many of you guys live. This has been, I should just mention before I pass over to the team, this has been an invite-only process. We haven't done our normal sort of spray everywhere. We've done quite a selective invite, and I'm really impressed to see how many have come through, not only live, but also hi to all of you guys on the replay as well. I know we've got a big group that's registered. So it just goes to show how important this topic is for us. Dave, Nee, thanks so much for making the time to come and share your plans and the solution.
No worries at all. Yeah, like Phil said, just to back it up, great to see so much interest in, I think, what is one of the most transformational opportunities that the VET sector has probably ever seen. So we're looking forward to getting into that today and actually bringing to life the work that we're doing, our approach to providing a blueprint for the VET sector in Australia, and really give you guys an insight about what's real and what's not when it comes to supporting RTO operations. So yeah, thank you, Phil. It's been great sponsorship for you to bring us into your community. So yeah, we very much appreciate that.
Awesome. And again, thanks so much for making the time. I've seen it, so these guys already know how excited I am because I haven't seen some of the recent features, but I've already seen it. So I'm stoked to be able to help raise awareness and to share this opportunity with the crew. Just some quick housekeeping before I pass over to you, Dave. Guys, you know the chat. We're not going to use polling today. We're going to do Q&A as we go. Any queries or questions or comments in general, throw them in the chat and we'll be addressing those as we go through. So back to you, Dave.
Excellent, cool. Well, look, guys, we're going to have a fun next 30 to 40 minutes. I'm going to kick off with myself and give you a sense of what we're referring to as the AI blueprint for VET. And as Phil mentioned, we are going to record this session. We're going to be sending this out, I think, probably within the next 24 hours. So if you were to share amongst your colleagues, then please feel free to do so. What is this webinar all about? Really, it's not about AI. It's about a mindset and a thought process about what RTO operations and VET sector operations can be and are becoming in 2026. And we're really pushing beyond surface level use of AI that you may be accustomed to in terms of your personal productivity, but looking at an institutional level, what is happening today across different parts of the VET sector, from RTO operations to student engagement to jobs and skills councils to funding structures, and looking at what the opportunity really is and where things are at, and the blueprint that you can take back to your stakeholders, to your peers, to your learning design teams, to your quality teams, and go, okay, there is a place to start, to go, and ideally end with an efficient way to operate a training organization in 2026 that I feel hasn't had the opportunity as a sector to transform since the 90s with the invent of the personal computer and bringing this to life. So what we're not going to do today is do loads of hype. What we are going to do is walk through the pain statements as we see it, what's happening in the sector, what we're doing about it, and give you guys an opportunity to extend the conversation into Nee's world, who is the product marketing specialist here at Superhuman, into joining our AI Academy, which is actually, if you believe in the blueprint and you believe there is a smarter way to operate, then we're going to take you on that journey of bringing you up to speed on how do you apply this technology at an institutional level across your RTO. Those of you that are probably rolling your eyes going, I know how to use Copilot and Claude, just hold that thought. We're really going to touch on industrial strength intelligence that fully lives and breathes vocational education today. And this is about not just AI, it's about software plus AI plus integration plus understanding your learners, your demographics, the people at which you serve, the communities at which you train, and bringing that to life as a modern way to operate in the sector. So without further ado, we'll kind of launch into it. Now, I have asked Phil to be that guy and cut me off at the knees with questions that pop in. And so if you guys have questions throughout the next half an hour or so, please do just throw them into the chat, because if someone's got a question, so will somebody else. And it's always good to exchange value as we go, as opposed to listen to me for half an hour and feel like you're not getting the value out of your hard-earned time. It's lunchtime. Let's get into it. Enjoy your sandwiches as we roll through. Okie dokie. Now, I like to humanize the opportunity and the problem statement within the sector, and we look at this from a perspective of what happens today when we look at a individual sat inside an RTO or a training organization, and the work that actually happens. And the distinction here for us is that whilst we're very busy as a sector, are we driving towards the first principles about what the sector's here to do? And we'll touch about what those first principles are later on. But it's evident from the statistics that we see from research, our own research, and those through large research organizations that, and you guys know this, that a large percentage of time for those delivering training is not spent delivering training. It's spent on the administration in and around training. And a lot of that, and there's a key word here, is the generation and creation of artifacts to satisfy standards. And there's a key theme that runs throughout the work that's not teaching, and a lot of it comes down to trust. Trust that things are being done well, trust that things are being done to standard, and trust that the evidence is there that proves that we're doing a good job. Now, the challenge with those artifacts is that we're human beings. And one, we don't really want to do it. Two, we're limited by our biology. Phil can only type so quick, and he can only read so fast. And when it comes to, mapping a 40-page document to back to clustered units and figuring out what's changed in superseded units and updating materials to match what needs to be executed on the training floor, it's almost computationally impossible for a human to do that well. We're going to talk today about, we know the problem, and we know that there's time being taken in the industry that's not related to student outcomes. But what can we do about that? Teaching work that's not teaching is driven by things outside of what good completion looks like. And it's not that this work is not valuable, but the documentary work that links to the standards is mightily important. But all of it is required, but none of it is for teaching. But it absolutely should be done in some form of way. So let's unpack a little bit what that work looks like. But before we get into it, let's just do a little bit of a poll. So if you guys can just find your way, navigate your way to chat. Just type in the chat what you think the answer to this question is. So what share of Australian teachers say that administrative work is a major source of stress? I'll give you guys 4 or 5 seconds to answer that question. Okie dokie, thank you very much for that. So no surprise, 69%, huge number. In terms of Australian position, we rank very, very highly in the work to stress ratio when it comes to the, thank you, John, the administration of that. And, arguably we've got to kind of look at what we're here to do. And yes, administration is part of the process. We can't all be training without things that support the underlying tracing back to funding. But this is just bad. And it's not, and we know it. And I'm not going to stress that there's too much noise in the industry about things that are good and or bad. What I really like the mindset, though, is can we do something about it? And that doesn't mean change the compliance framework. It's there for a reason. Like, the government aren't going to move at a pace that we want to change it. They're not in operations. But other things we can do that's within our sphere of influence that can drastically achieve one, 2, or 3 of 3 very important things to you guys, which is how can we reduce this and make it more efficient so you can grow, be efficient with your capital, and reduce your risk and registration and audit. And yeah, I'm hope that with the work that we're doing in the industry, those that work with us, when we can see it, are evidencing significantly in hopefully reduced levels of stress by giving this time back. Let's talk about what we do with that time, and let's look at how the 2025 standards did or did not support this. So we're coming up to the 1-year anniversary of the 2025 standards, as you guys as you guys will know. And the key theme running through this is the burden has shifted from, the burden shifted to making sure that you can evidence the outcomes that you're looking to achieve. But also with that becomes a human debt. And that human debt being that when things change, you need to upskill those that need to understand what it means to operate in a new world. And it's not only that, we've got the new TPOF, 2025 TPOF and the ASK stuff coming later on this year, and continuous evolution of what learner expectations are in the market. You guys know all this, but there is an appreciation that I don't think government and regulators are trying to make this harder for us. I genuinely don't believe that's the intent. I just do sometimes think it's loss of the cost of change, and we all know that change is expensive. It's expensive in people coming into the industry, being disillusioned. It's expensive on the workforce load that we have as a sector, and noting that the reason that we're here is not to do admin, it's to ultimately drive completions and build the workforce, the workforce of tomorrow. And that workforce is under increased stress. Numbers of students remain exceptionally high, and the need for trainers to come into and teachers to come into the industry remains very, very buoyant, with nearly 4,000 needed between now and the next few years. And what do those staff members, those talent that are coming into an industry, what do they expect in 2026? And if you are a mid-20s to early 30s individual that is essentially weaponized your own life with this amazing tooling that's at our fingertips about how you get work done, no wonder there's huge disillusionment when they step into a sector where you can't get a co-pilot license because of compliance, or it's just bound by regulations that you can't really breathe and extend the reason that you got into the sector in the first place. And we're 100% on a mission to free those smart minds from that tedious work so they can flourish and build the workforce of tomorrow. Now, I'll pause there for a minute because there's kind of a philosophical reason that we started Superhuman with its focus on vocational education, is that there's a fight fire with fire moment for us. And we believe that artificial intelligence as a technology is going to hugely displace hundreds of millions of jobs over the course of the next couple of decades. Those displaced workers are going to turn to vocational education for retraining. And the sector that's going to carry that disruption, the sector that's going to carry that global reskilling event, hasn't undergone a transformation in how it operates for the last 30 to 40 years. And therefore, what do we expect to happen when hundreds of millions of people turn around and say, I now want to become a vocationally trained individual? The sector will continue to get more and more people leaving it, and the pressure will go up, and the demands from government will increase in terms of wants to make sure that the workforce of the future is trained appropriately. So we see the intersection of two things: a workforce under pressure, a workforce that's going to be under significant more pressure as AI disrupts knowledge work, and then all turning to us as a sector to meet that demand. And therefore, what are we going to do about it? And that's why I put my money where my mouth is and going, well, with the team of 30 plus engineers who understand AI at its core, we're going to weaponize that technology to support the great reskilling. Not in training people how to use Copilot. This is industrial strength intelligence that supports RTO operations to support workforce that's underloaded. The mindset here around that vision that we have about the great reskilling and supporting that workforce change is that the operating model for Australian RTOs was built for a quieter world. We moved slower 20 years ago. Life was different then. We were pre-social media. We had learners that were quite happy to sit in a classroom for an hour and not go on Instagram. There is a war happening between what learner expectations are in 2026 and how we operate the sector from two paradigms. One is workforce demand. What skills do we need in the workforce today, tomorrow, and in the next 10 years to meet the demands of the economy? But also those learners coming to us demand, and rightly so, demand different experiences that are wholly up to date. And this is not a criticism. It is just that if we keep doing the same things we've always done, then we're always going to get the same results. And don't quote me on that one. Someone far smarter and better looking brought that one to the table. But it is true. We've heard it before, and I feel like this is a real big opportunity. We are not saying a wholesale change. We're just saying there's a new way, and we're bringing that to the table, and that's what this white paper unlocks. Now, in terms of unlocking value, let's go to why we unlock that value and what's the actual reason that we're here. Getting skilled people into work fast is ultimately the reason the vet sector exists. One human proving another human's competency. That's what the system is built on. Confirming competence and judgment on someone else's ability to execute vocational tasks. That is the core of what the sector is here to do. And therefore, anything that gets in the way of that is purely noise. Validation bundles, RPL kits, assessment moderation, even to the extent marking themselves. You look at all of the activities that exist in terms of operations that aren't contributing to judgment and aren't contributing to getting someone qualified. All of that work at some point should either stay with a human, be shifted to some form of technology, or not even exist at all. And we unpack in the white paper at quite some detail which parts of those workflows can be done today and which should be done today and which shouldn't. We're definitely not going to that level of detail today because there's quite a lot of moving parts. But there is a huge opportunity here to move the needle a little bit and quite a lot yourself. But at a macro level, when we start to influence what's happening at government and down to learner and look at that institutional operating system of education, there is definitely a scenario where we can meet the demands of the great reskilling without needing to increment the size of the industry, 100%. Just a case of how do we unlock that 50% of time that's not spent doing the work of judging a competent practitioner's work to make sure that they're capable of doing their job. Okay, so a quick poll before we kind of look at the kinds of work that can and can't be done by artificial intelligence today. Now, take a quick second to scan through this and just start firing some numbers off in terms of which parts of the work that is listed here in the sector should or shouldn't stay human. So which of these must stay human when it comes to work that happens inside of the RTO? Give you guys a couple of seconds to respond to that. And then we'll kind of break it down into what we believe must stay human, where AI supports things and where full automation is pretty possible. Okay, cool. So the numbers in the boxes directly link to the pills that you saw before in the last one. And in terms of the work that we see as must stay human, and this is partly driven by regulation and legislation, is that judgment firmly stays within that square box. Competency sign-off, validation decisions, pastoral interventions, and also the soft skills of engaging with industry at a macro level. We believe that there are just relationships there that are far too important to drive what good workforce demand looks like and engagement. So we believe that those things should stay wholly human. Now, that doesn't mean that there is not a huge opportunity to lean into where there are just voids of engagement where technology can play a great part. So when we look at the middle column of where the human signs stuff off and stays in the loop, but AI is being used to augment those pieces, this is hard out capability today that is shipped across a very, very decent number of RTOs inside of Australia that are leveraging this technology today to really reduce the operational cost and time for their organization. So unit mapping, assessment drafting, TAS documents, training materials generation, all of those things. Proceed with caution here, and we talk about this in another way. Of AI is not equal, was definitely not born equal for all pieces. What we're not saying here is that RTOs are jumping into Claude and using it to do unit mapping. You will get reasonable and scary results when you go down that road. We know because we've spent 18 months figuring out how you actually ground these things in accuracy. And this is not hallucinations, and it's not things that you will literally seen as headlines of older AI technologies, which have those core those core challenges. This is purely around, there are a lot of moving parts when it comes to getting things like mappings right. And a lot of documents that we handle on a day-to-day basis have interworking relationships between them. There are supersession, timelines, different standards at different times, size of documents, multiple assessments in different modes, multiple training materials with different delivery methodologies, all of which need to form back into a singular map. There's a lot going on there. And why I'm saying this is that when we say AI, what we actually mean is precision industrial strength intelligence that understands VET can do these tasks exceptionally well with human oversight. And that with human oversight is to go, at some point, someone needs to sign something. And therefore, of course, we actually believe the technology far exceeds the human capability, but there is a human being inking some paper, and therefore that's where the liability sits. So human oversight at this point in 2026 is still essential. Over time, and you can see this from the advances in technology purely over the last 3 or 4 years, there will get to a point where trust is inherent in these systems and things will start to become far more automatable in terms of how these things are done. But right now, there is a continuum of change, and unit mapping, assessment drafting, test documents, RPL kits, training materials generation, all of those things are highly augmented with the uses of those technologies when deployed properly. Now, in terms of process choreography, what we mean by that is there's just a load of things that traditional software can and already does. You'll start to see AI popping up in your learning management system. You'll start to see AI popping up in your SMS. There are pieces of software and or AI in them now that will continue to automate those processes in the back end, and AI, of course, is going to accelerate them there. The brand new category, the category that's never existed before, is the operational choreography in the middle, which is there's never been software that really did a good job of drafting, mapping, and keeping documentation in a singular graph that's working for its life cycle together, because generative AI was not capable of that before. It now is, and that brand new category, we're going to pick a little bit more in a second. So if we understand the first principles, kind of what work shifts around. Judgment stays human, we keep that as it is, but we move documentation, we move that choreography into AI that's shaped for VET. That time that's released, we reinvest back into the human side of the business, which is where the judgment and the relationships take place. It is a momentum shift and a flywheel then of that time that's unlocked, creates growth opportunity. It deepens industry relationships, it deepens learner satisfaction, learner delivery time, or releasing of resources back into the P&L, and you then get to this position of without needing to grow other parts of the organization, you can free things up. There is not one thing, there are lots of things, and they will continue to get better over time. And our role in life is to look at VET operations as an operating system and bring the right technologies to bear as that core of your operations expands over time. So let's talk a little about the blueprint and what we've created for you guys. Around 2 months ago, we released the blueprint for Australia VET. And we did this because we were just fielding hundreds of conversations around how do I approach this from a people, process, and technology basis. And of course, as a team of engineers that deeply understand vocational education, we can talk tech and we can talk VET until the cows come home. But a lot of this, from our experience of working with organizations across all states, has been, it comes down to the organizational ability to embrace a new way to operate. And that is a people change scenario. It is a cultural scenario. And it's one that's driven from the owners and leadership of the training organization, realizing that actually, if we believe that the first principle of vocational education is to get skilled people into work as quickly as possible, then we need to embrace. And this real blueprint is really a supporting artifact for you to debate, for you to have conversation with leadership and go, great, let's start. Let's get an AI policy in place. Let's tell staff what they can and what they can't use, where they can and where they shouldn't use these technologies, why they're safe to use, what's appropriate to support when audit comes around and says, well, how are you using these technologies? And just giving you these sets of artifacts that allow you to fish for yourselves when it comes to thinking about this. And of course, as a supplier of services in this space, there's an element of how we help, but we want to serve you guys in a slightly different way when it comes to producing this. So let's take a little bit of a look at what is inside this blueprint. Before we get into that, a quick poll. In companies getting real return from AI, how much effort goes into the algorithm? Cool. So we're a group of engineers. Of course, we're going to throw a tech question in there. And by that, what we mean is, if you were to go, we're going to go and deploy AI or a vet-specific AI system across your organization, what percentage of time goes into thinking about the tech? Of course, all these questions are pretty leading, but you will be surprised that only 10% of the time really is taken thinking about the AI itself. The majority of projects that we do deploying AI into RTOs, actually the technology is taken care of because we take care of it. And that's the role of industrializing this for vet, to understand learning design, instructional design, graphic design, what works for different learner cohorts, how to package things for different levels of literacy and numeracy, and making sure that the appropriate levels of cultural competency exist in all of these artifacts. That is all algorithmic, and that's handled by the likes of Superhuman. And then the other parts are really around how do we connect this to intellectual property or information that you have inside of your RTO to shape the AI's capability. But then it's about weaponizing these technologies in the hands of your learning designers, in the hands of your quality teams, and bringing them on the journey. Now, buyer beware moment. AI and workforce displacement do go hand in hand. And of course, when we talk about a new operating model for vocational education, there's definitely a subculture within the sector that are threatened by these technologies, and we've seen all shapes and sizes of that. We've also seen exceptionally strong advocates from some of the blackest hats in terms of seeing what the art of the possible is. And once the first principles of vocational education are there as a bedrock within that conversation, we soon see the change of people realizing that actually there is so much demand to do a great job out there. This is not a threat; it's a weaponization for the purposes of getting skilled people into work. And we're in a good place to step forward. But the blueprint is a significant part of the blueprint is to arm you guys with what we've seen around people change, process change, and cultural change when it comes to having conversations around the use of AI within your organizations. Just 1 second, let me just grab some water. But it will be no surprise that you guys would have seen your teams already using AI within the workplace. Again, buyer beware. There are two things that can fall on the back of this. One is it's very, very good at making bad processes and bad things go very, very fast. There is definitely an opportunity to smell what's going to be really great with this technology by using consumer grade intelligence. But from a human perspective, we've seen some really good results in making sure the organization don't do things like ban the use of AI. This is more around a case of making sure that people understand that we're reframing people's roles to be able to have the right tools to be able to do their job as efficiently as possible, especially with new talent coming in to the industry where they expect to be able to use these kind of technologies. A policy is not there to be just shoved into SharePoint and hidden, but a policy that actually really clearly defines this is what we use and why we use it and what we use it for. We're open to exploration, but with these guide rails in place, and we want people to push the boundaries about what's safe and what's possible, but encouraging those champions to step forward, those individuals, and you'll know who they are within your organizations quite quickly, those ones that they have a good aptitude to push the boundaries, and they can see that there is a better way. Bringing those people and championing them to help support building, driving policy, doing research, working with subject matter experts in the field, in our team, for example, who can support going, okay, well, this is how we can infuse these technologies into your learning design operations, for example, they just pay for themselves time and time again in terms of their ability to influence other individuals in the organization. So in the blueprint, there is some key deep guides in terms of how do you approach reframing a role. We've even just launched a policy that you can take and roll out for your organization, and how to advocate and support champions inside of your organizations. So they don't become a flight risk, but they become a transformational opportunity for you guys. Where we encourage people to start with these, thinking about AI, is that what we're really saying is don't just go all in, because there's no such thing as all in. There are different things at different stages that make sense. Using the tools that are in your LMS for AI for students, cool, great, do that. However, just picking up a ChatGPT license and using it to map your units, probably not the best idea. What we're really looking for is starting with things that are high volume, high structure, and low judgment. A very, very good place to start. In fact, that's how we started, picking out those workloads and building AI operating systems around them. Why? Because it proves the technology. Secondly, because it gets people comfortable with using these technologies. And third, you can then start to trust where the boundaries are and where they are not, and you've still got full human control in the loop. And we talked a little bit about likes of ChatGPT and specific technologies, but I want to kind of lay this out as we see the world. There are kind of three camps of AI. The first we refer to as generic. This is highly powerful, capable language models that you can sign up to for 20 or 30 bucks a month, which will drastically transform your personal productivity when it comes to doing a whole manner of tasks. Exceptionally capable. And you should all have access to them. It's just a no-brainer in terms of just making sure that you can keep good momentum on tasks which are low risk and low judgment. The second pillar is system integrated and embedded AI. So your learning management system, your SMS, will have tooling starting to appear in that is AI enabled. And then the third is sector native platforms. Now, there's a disclaimer that I'll put through there because, of course, as an organization that builds a vet native platform, this is exceptionally biased, and just hold that thought for a second. Generic, embedded, and native exist. There's three of them that exist for three reasons. Generic AI is built to solve global problems for global people and do a lot of things. When you then start to need to lean on that technology for things that are high stakes and high risk, you then start to, I'll call the analogy, it's like driving a Ferrari through a field. It's doing something it wasn't designed to do, right? It wasn't built to do that specific task. So then you look at LMS and system embedded pieces. You've got to look at those systems. They are software with AI sprinkled on top of them, which is very, very powerful for doing certain tasks inside of that software quicker, more efficiently, and to drive operational costs down. 100% appropriate. When it comes to new category of work that's never been done by technology before, noting that for a lot of organizations, the best that exists for a lot of workloads is it's in a spreadsheet somewhere or it's in someone's head, then a new category emerges where you can industrialize the processes of the vet sector, the nuances of the domestic market in Australia, and bring brand new capability that has been battle tested by people that hold validation credentials to say, when we ask the system to produce these things, they are bulletproof. That's what we mean by vet native. And it's designed to reduce rework. It's designed to increase trust and increase velocity across the core main workloads. Now, of course, we don't build systems that are summarizing emails and randomly creating new spreadsheets in a chat window. We're doing specific tasks around the core activities of vocational education. And that's what we mean by vet native platforms that have things like data sovereignty in mind, the ability to audit at a click of a button, the ability to create rock solid validation ready instruments that because of errors picked up in generic tooling. So that's how we see the world. So wrapping this up quickly, we then look at where AI belongs in the plethora of work that happens across the RTO. And the answer is everywhere. It's just a case of what tool you're using to do it. Some of these things will be considered the use of generic tools, but the majority of these things are handled at an industrial level through vet native platforms, because the cost of getting these things wrong is massive, and especially when you're coming to a point of your 4th or 5th year of needing to come up for registration, and you've got a lot of superseded units, and you need to have everything shipshape. There is so many moving parts here, and you can create a lot of bad mess at speed by using the wrong AI in the wrong part of the organization. So everything here, we believe, as of today, is highly tuned for AI with an industrial lens. A really good place to start is high volume, high structure, low judgment. And most of the tasks we talked about that we provide in vet native applications are what is called vet operating system, VETos, are looking at high volume, high structure, low judgment scenarios, creating compliant assessments, mapping, training materials, creating consistent graph mapping documentation across the whole of the RTO, managing scope, managing your artifacts on scope, managing your super sessions. All of these things, they are high volume, high structure, low judgment. We're not talking about assessment. We're talking about all the instruments to drive that. And this is a very good place to start as this technology becomes more and more capable. And this matters because at some point, someone's got to sign something to say, yes, I attest to the fact that this is all kosher. However, bringing all of that information together for audit readiness, there's some organizations that do this relatively cleanly, but the human effort to compile all of this information for audit, to look for gaps ahead of audit, and then with genuine capability to look at what's going on within the RTO and say, yep, we are self-assured that this looks as we expect it to be to pass audit, is not fit for human consumption. Like I said, Phil could only type so quickly, only can read so fast. So therefore, we want to use technology to do the compilation, and then give reasoning and rationale about why we're good for audit, and then we can move forward to assertion with confidence. So in terms of the disclaimer, of course, Superhuman is a AI specialist in vocational education, and we live and breathe industrializing the processes of vet into technology. So there is absolutely an element of bias in this. So we want to make that very clear to you. However, the white paper is written with a lens of how do we focus on people, process, and tech to make sure that we address all the areas which are considered. We're in a new world where this is not a tech buy. It is definitely a change program, and we've seen it all. And we want to make sure we share that goodness with you guys, and also receive feedback and contribution to the white paper in terms of your experiences to help the sector get back to what it's here to do, which is to get skilled people in work as quickly as possible and free teachers to educate. Now, part of that is making sure that we take you and your teams on a journey about what it actually means to do some of this work. How do you apply our technologies to the likes of assessment design, mapping, training materials, assessor guides, linked back to units to support your day-to-day operations. So I would like to introduce Ni to the call. She's our product marketing specialist who leads our Superhuman Academy, which is an initiative we started several months ago. We've got the first cohort running now, and we're going to pass over to you, Ni, just to introduce the Superhuman Academy and the role that plays in supporting you getting to understand what the real applications of this technology are in real life.
Cool.
Over to you.
Thanks, Dave. Hi, everyone. I'm Ni, and I'm the product marketing specialist here at Superhuman. So just before we hop into Q&A, I would like to share a learning and development opportunity if you are a TAFE or an RTO looking at accelerating AI in your workflow, or is just simply seeing what are the possibles out there in the sector at the moment. So Dave, can you go to the next slide? There we go. Cool. So thank you. So Superhuman Academy, it's a hands-on 3-week program where RTO can leverage AI into building their own academic contents in VETos, which is our operating system for vocational educations that Dave mentioned earlier. So everything you do is you create your own organization trial environment, you bring into the unit of competency that your RTO offer in real life. Then we get into it with building actual materials with guidance from me. So no, it's not another front row seat demo. You will be the one actually building, and everything you make is yours to use. So as you guys can see there, the 3 sessions are structured all differently. With the first one, I'll guide you guys through your chosen units and create an assessment and assessor guide. Then we go into the second sessions. We focus on generating study guide and specifically on how to make them more engaging rather than just compliant. Think about images, learning components, and context profiles, all the things that are generally essential for multiple cohorts when you are managing multiple unit of competencies. And for the third week, which is the last, our most popular session so far, generate assessment mapping against the contents that you created back in week 1, which is the assessment and the assessor guide, wrapping it all nicely together into a completed workflow into in one workspace. So this is our first cohort, and the seats are limited. It runs over 3 Zoom sessions on the 5th, the 12th, and the 19th of August, which is happening very soon. You receive an L&D certificate by the end of the academy as well. So if you guys would like to join, the QR code on the screen will take you to registration. It should be only about a few seconds to finish. I'll leave it up while we do the Q&A as well. But so thank you so much, and hope to see you guys there.
Excellent, Nee. Thank you very much for that. And just to point you guys to the right spot, if you take a photo of the QR code, we'll also send this out in the notes after as well. Send you direct to the registration page. There's a specific registration link just for this community, so we'll send you directly to that as opposed to go via our .com website. So we'll just make sure you've got access to that. But a really good opportunity for you yourselves and or your learning design or quality team to come in, get some hands-on experience with taking units or clustered units and bringing them in and then building contextualized resources over a 3-week period. So learning at a relatively slow pace, easy for you to say, where you actually give artifacts in your hand, and you will be doing this, not just shown it, but you will be doing it alongside Nee and the team, so you can see the power of what industrial strength intelligence means for vocational education. So I'm looking forward to seeing you guys on the cohort. Okay, perfect. Well, that just means we're moving finally on to Q&A. But I'll leave both links there so you can do one of 2 things. You can download the white paper, or you can register for the Superhuman Academy. And then I've seen a flurry of activity on the comments as well. I'm definitely not smart enough to be able to talk, look, and read them at the same time. So thanks for Phil for marshalling that. But I'm happy to open up to any questions to make the best use of your guys' time.
I think there's a great question here that's come through from Amanda, and thanks so much, Amanda, for some key points along the way. Loving it. Do you just want to talk a little bit around that governance and transparency? It's something, obviously, with the announcement only in the last 24 hours from our Prime Minister around how we're going to have a new standard for AI, et cetera, et cetera. It's something that everyone's been thinking about. How do we govern AI adoption? So Amanda's made a couple of sort of great comments in there. So do you just want to talk about that a little bit?
So we've approached this from a trust perspective from day one. I'll explain what I mean by that. Is every question, mapping, choice of instructional design approach, why a question is written a certain way, why we choose to put certain types of performance evidence in certain questions and question mix, etc. When it comes to assessment design, we need to show why. And the reasoning and rationale behind the why is directly linked to best practice, regulation, institutional knowledge, good use of learning design principles, good use of taxonomy, etc. And that why, that reasoning and rationale is inherent to everything that we do. It is displayed and is reported on at every point. So at any point in time, you can take an instrument and go, well, why was that written in that way? And it's normally linked to, one of a few things, which are those things that I mentioned before: regulation, legislation, best practice, to almost remove the subjectivity of why things are done a certain way, because that's how your RTO wants to operate. It has to operate in a compliant manner. So we're actually bringing the crowdsourcing of the best ways to deliver instruments to market, and then trying to raise the tide with everyone, so we can all create exceptionally high quality. But it comes with proving that quality as well. But I think it's a great question. You'll talk about, we distinguish the difference between judgment and non-judgment tasks. Of course, I think at some point there are definitely some judgment items that will shift to some technology. But I actually think that there is just not enough hours and people in the day to be able to meet the demand of formative learning. Anyway, so there is definitely a part to play for AI in that formative sense, in terms of giving learners feedback around and mock testing them and taking them through vocational practice exercises, which humans just can't get to because of the volume, and therefore leaving the humans to really focus on the summative stuff. So of course we respect and embed policy and regulation into all of our systems at its core. So even from a copyright perspective and from an IP perspective, like we indemnify our clients for copyright on the basis of everything we produce. We indemnify that content. So we shoulder that because we stand behind our work and the work that the external validators do to come and support the work that we ship in market. That possibly answers a little bit of your question, Jason, as well. But happy to talk a little bit about IP as well.
That would be great. That's Jason's just nailed, I think, the very next one. I'll just bring that up for those on the you big group on the replay. We see you guys. I'm already getting emails from people asking me if they could get in on the replay. So the news is getting around, Dave and me, definitely. But do you want to just expand a little bit more? How do we protect the IP? I think that was a great comment about the IP that's being produced, sort of coming through the system. But what if users are putting their own IP into the system?
Yeah, so anything that's added to VETos is in the context of the RTO, and it's used as context for supporting the creation of other instruments and artifacts. Any document or asset that's produced through VETos is owned by the RTO. That's hands down. When Superhuman does not and will not use it for anything other than servicing you as the RTO. And that's just hands down, full stop, capital letter, how we've done things from day one. There is no scenario where instruments that are created for one RTO are used, leveraged, resold, or repurposed for the purposes of supporting someone else in the sector. Because actually, what matters most for us is the contextualization and recontextualization of instruments to be learner appropriate. And you guys all have value propositions where your learner cohorts are distinctly different from each other, regardless of similar scope. So therefore, actually, no, we're creating the ability for the RTO to fish, given the ability to contextualize at pace, and therefore there's no value in reuse anyway in that situation. So yeah, it's a pretty hard line not a pretty hard line, it's the hardest of lines for us when it comes to that. So if you went to vet.superhuman.com, Jason, and had a look at our legal conditions in the bottom right hand corner, which should give you every answer that you need around IP protection. And if you don't get the answer that you need, just feel free to give me a bell.
I think that's a really important call out as well, Dave, that as you've mentioned a couple of times, you're talking about industrial level AI. All of these areas, IP, privacy, security, etc., are a given. Like they're non-negotiable starting points when we're talking about application level AI. So I think while all of us in the community are constantly thinking about that, and perhaps we're playing with our LLM models and whatever free or subscription packages that people are using, we're talking about a whole other thing when we're jumping into application level AI.
Yeah, no, we may, I don't know if it's a bold move or not, but when we're talking about copyright, we're like, well, it's indemnification. It's put the risk onto a superhuman because we're standing by the engineering that's engineering away those concerns. Yet if we've done that, then we should hold the risk. And that's essentially what this is all about. It's industrializing that so the sector can go hard without being held back by the risk profile, and that risk profile becomes with us. So yeah, 100%.
My mute there. There we go. I knew I was going to get caught with that one. More questions, guys. Any other queries or questions for the Superhuman team? Just while I'm waiting, if there's other bits and pieces coming up, guys, how best to get access to have a look at the application? Is the joining the academy, the course, the best way to go about it, or have you got some other options coming up as well?
Yeah, numerous ways. So if you're interested in having a conversation with us with some immediacy, then reach out to us. Go to superhuman.com and just get in contact with us through there, or reach out to me on email directly, and we'll book a call to come and have a conversation with you guys. That will involve us doing a fair amount of listening, where you're at in terms of your RT operations and what pain are you looking to focus on. And as part of that, we will walk you through VETos, how to load your units, how to ingest your scope, and then we'll take you through that process one-on-one. If you want to be a little bit more paced about it, then obviously join the academy. That's a really good place for you to drop in your learning design team or quality team to give them some experience with this technology. And also then there's no pressure in a process to kind of respond. That's just our gift to you guys to go through that approach as well. There's also a lot of content on a YouTube channel. There's a lot of content on the website. So feel free to navigate through, and of course my phone is always on if you guys want to reach us. But we've got a merry band of 30+ people that are working on this stuff day in, day out, and we'll definitely furnish you with the right conversation. So I'm a big believer in getting hands-on. So for those of you that are up for it, just let us know. We'll book some time with you, and we'll show you what this looks like in practice.
Awesome. I think we're there.
Yep, great.
Yeah, I think we're there. No other queries or questions coming through?
Well, in that case, I will sign off and hand back to you. Phil, thank you very much for opening this opportunity up to your community. I've really enjoyed the questions coming through and your engagement online, guys. I've just been scrolling through, seeing all of the numbers pop in. So I appreciate your engagement. We're also at the Vet Quality and Innovation Summit in Brisbane in a couple of months' time. So if any of you guys are heading there, feel free to come and tap us on the shoulder. We'll happily buy you a free water, and we can engage there at all. But Phil, I'll pass back to you. Nee, thank you very much for pulling this together. And we'll see you guys next time.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Dave, and they really appreciate and challenging us to think a little bit differently about our AI beyond what everyone has probably been using for the last 2 or 3 years or experimenting with in the first instance. A shout out for the VetQI team as well. Excellent conferences and some excellent live events that are running at the moment, keeping everyone up to date on the ongoing changes. So great to hear that you connected with those VetQI guys. They're really helping us navigate what's going on in our vet sector and all of the reform as it's happening. Thanks everyone that has joined with us live. I'm sure you got a lot out of that. You've got some homework here. You can access more information as the team have provided for you on the QR codes and in the chat. And for all of you on the replay, much bigger group, you've got the opportunity. Don't just be silent behind the scenes. You've got the opportunity to engage with the crew as well. So thanks so much again, guys. Really appreciate your time today. And I'll look forward to seeing the journey as it continues.
Thanks, team. Appreciate it.